Welcome to the 700 Club. Let's go over to the CBN newsroom for today's top stories.
Thanks, Gordon. President Trump and House Democrats are both claiming victory after Robert Mullers' testimony before Congress Wednesday. The former special prosecutor faced a 6-hour grilling over his findings in the investigation into Russian collusion and obstruction of justice. Amber Strong reports now from Washington.
The dust is still settling after Robert Mueller's hours-long grilling here on Capitol Hill Wednesday, with both sides spinning their talking points to fit the narrative.
It was a historical day because the day is the day that we closed the book on this investigation.
So this was a very big day for our country.
The president and Republicans immediately claiming victory. The Democrats maintained the hearings delivered exactly as expected.
Today was a watershed day in telling the facts to the American people. With those facts, we can proceed.
It started with Mueller dismantling the president's repeated claims the report cleared him of wrongdoing.
So the report did not conclude that he did not commit obstruction of justice. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what about total exoneration? Did you actually totally exonerate the president?
No.
Democrats also painting a picture of a chief executive determined to impede an investigation and get rid of the special counsel.
Your investigation actually found substantial evidence that McGahn was ordered by the president to fire you, correct?
Yes.
But Republicans pushed back, looking to undermine the credibility of Director Mueller's team.
6 of your lawyers donated $12,000 directly to Hillary Clinton. I'm not even talking about the $49,000 they donated to other Democrats, just the donations to the opponent who was the target of your investigation.
I have been in this business for almost 25 years, and in those 25 years, I have not had occasion once to ask somebody about their political affiliation.
Republicans insist it's time to move on.
I challenge the Democratic colleagues, get over the election of 2016. Run in 2020 if you want.
The president's legal counsel following suit.
This was the Democratic Party's best case to put forward today. As many of your friends have said, they did not move the needle.
But Democrats vow to persist with more investigations. And when it comes to impeachment,
I think that if we go down that path, we should go in the strongest possible way. And that's all I'm going to say about the subject.
While the hearings generated a media frenzy, it probably did little to convince the public to support impeachment. According to an NBC Wall Street Journal poll, only 21% of registered voters favor that move. Amber Strong, CBN News at the Capitol.
The governor of Puerto Rico is stepping down after nearly 2 weeks of protests. Ricardo Rosselló made the announcement last night in a video posted to Facebook.
I announce to you today that I will be resigning as governor effective Friday, August 2nd.
Demonstrators greeted that announcement with cheers and singing. The protest triggered by a series of offensive chat messages between Rosselló and some of his advisors. The online conversations containing sexist remarks and even making jokes about hurricane victims. This comes as the government is facing a severe debt crisis, charges of corruption, and a slow recovery from Hurricane Maria in 2017. Justice Secretary Wanda Vasquez will take over, becoming the second female governor of Puerto Rico. The island is a U.S. territory with more than 3 million American citizens. A federal judge in California has blocked new asylum restrictions by the Trump administration. The policy prevents most migrants from claiming asylum if they came through another country before reaching the United States. This comes as the crisis at the border is increasingly becoming a priority for Americans. A new Gallup poll shows 27% rank immigration as the #1 issue facing the country. The government and poor leadership come in at #2 at 23%. The back and forth continues between President Trump and Representative Omar and other progressive Democrats, exchanging more harsh rhetoric in a fight that just will not die down. As CBN News chief political analyst David Brody reports, President Trump is not backing down, and clearly neither is the so-called squad.
Racism in politics. Not a day goes by nowadays without the toxic subject making an appearance. The latest entry, a presidential tweet calling Muslim Congresswoman Omar America-hating and an anti-Semite, and Omar firing back.
Right now, even when we're talking about the president, people will say, you know, his remarks are racist, and will forget the inherent racism that has always been part of him.
Also part of the latest back and forth, Trump tweeting how Omar and her liberal freshman squad members are a nightmare for America.
I think it's clear that President Trump wants to make a foil out of the squad.
Caitlin Conan is the political director for CBS News. Trump has no doubt taken what he views as the squad's anti-American views and morphed it from a news cycle to both a news cyclone and a new contour for the 2020 race. But will that guarantee a second term?
In 2016, President Trump won election in large part due to independence. And I think they would probably rather be talking about the economy, the courts, than having this Twitter fight play out between the president and the squad.
But conservative groups see an opening. They found these comments that Palestinian Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib made a few months ago.
I'm more Palestinian in the halls of Congress than I am anywhere in the country, in the world.
The material is not hard to find. In the research for this story, we came across this interview from Ilhan Omar when she was running for Congress.
A lot of conservatives in particular would say that the rise in Islamophobia is a result not of hate, but of fear, a legitimate fear, they say, of quote-unquote jihadist terrorism, whether it's Fort Hood or San Bernardino or the recent truck attack in New York. What do you say to them?
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. We should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men.
Omar is also now the center of an ethics complaint filed by the conservative group Judicial Watch. It's over allegations that the Somalian-born congresswoman may have married her biological brother and in the process committed perjury, immigration fraud, and marriage fraud. Reporters like Jeff Mason of Reuters know this is just the beginning of a fight relished by the White House.
In general, I think they've been relatively happy with how the last week has gone. I mean, a lot of controversy for sure, but it's coming down to be a clear part of his strategy going into the 2020 campaign.
As this political food fight plays out, here is something to keep in mind. The president may be toxic and despised by liberals, but his approval rating is far higher than anyone from the squad. Recent polling shows the highest of any squad member is AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She clocks in at a whopping 23%. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
The government is slapping Facebook with a $5 billion fine for repeated violations against privacy. The historic settlement comes on the heels of a Justice Department announcement launching an antitrust investigation into big tech companies. Washington reporter Jenna Browder explains.
Massive multinational tech companies have gained enormous power to censor opinions.
The president has long taken a special interest in investigating bad actions by tech giants.
I started Facebook, I run it, and I'm responsible for what happens here.
At Facebook, the buck stops with Mark Zuckerberg.
We didn't take a broad enough view of our responsibility, and that was a big mistake. And it was my mistake, and I'm sorry.
Over a year since that apology, Facebook is agreeing to pay the largest fine in U.S. history for a privacy violation.
For years, Facebook misled millions of Americans about how it was sharing and using their data.
The rebuke comes 16 months after an investigation into Facebook's ties to political consulting firm Cambridge Analytica morphed into a sweeping inquiry.
Facebook also deceived Americans about how it would use their gathered phone numbers and about when facial recognition technology was active on their Facebook accounts.
The settlement with the Federal Trade Commission and Department of Justice comes with new Facebook promises to change its approach to privacy. In a Facebook post Wednesday, Zuckerberg said, quote, "We're going to make some major structural changes to how we build products and run this company."
Our competition isn't just here in America. We compete with companies from all around the world.
On Capitol Hill last week, Facebook joined other Silicon Valley executives defending themselves against a bipartisan antitrust probe investigating their enormous market power.
If you don't want to use Google, there are many other information providers available.
Jenna Browder, CBN News.
A heat wave is shattering records across Europe. Belgium and Germany experiencing their highest temperatures ever, 102 and 104.9 degrees respectively. In France, the temperatures are expected to reach an all-time high of 104 degrees. That's 27 degrees higher than normal for this time of year. The intensive heat is putting millions of elderly at risk. Most homes in France and Germany don't have air conditioning. Authorities are warning citizens to drink plenty of water and check in on isolated elderly people. Temperatures are expected to fall, though, by the weekend. It is certainly hard to pass down a frozen treat on a hot summer day like a Flavor Ice Pop, but its makers, Take a Pop, Share a Smile program, does much more for young cancer patients. It's provided freezers full of pops to children's hospitals across the country. Oftentimes, children fighting cancer deal with bouts of nausea. The frozen pops help them with that and usually puts a big smile on their faces as well.